What's going on, fam? How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, man.
Yeah.
Living life out here. No.
So this is my cousin Richard. He's in the Marines. So tell him what it's like.
Honestly, it's a lot of come and go. There's really a whole bunch of negatives and positives with it. So one of the biggest positives is you get that camaraderie with people, the brotherhood.
Right.
Probably the only thing that I kind of wake up and look forward to throughout the day is seeing like my brothers that I'm really close with. So seeing them, like, you, the ability to say like really messed up stuff to them and them not be offended by it or anything like that, it's just you're greeted with something even more vulgar. So it's like a healthy, non-healthy relationship with everybody.
Right. Right. And I gotta admit, like, the short stint that I was in the army, it was kind of the same deal. Like, um, there's different culture in different branches, and I know every branch always has that, like,
Yeah,
we're the best branch type stuff, and
but
so
we are the best. We are.
It's funny actually. Not a lot of people know this, but and you can obviously vouch, but Marines is the only basic training that does not need to be repeated if you go to a different branch,
Mm-hmm.
and people don't know that. So what's funny is somebody was in the Air Force when I was in basic. That was mid 2014, and we were there, and it was weird because this guy was an E6, and he was in the Air Force. I don't know why, but when you move to a different branch from the Air Force to the Army, you lose rank. I don't know how that happened, but he lost rank. He went from E6 to E5. He was the only person in basic that had, sergeant stripes. So he was a sergeant in basic.
Yeah, so for us, it's most Marines, if they reenlist, they normally like try to lat move to another branch, strictly because it's just like being an infantryman in the Marine Corps. It's like you're not really used at the moment.
Right.
So go to a different branch. Now you can go to like a different school, like become like one of the mechanics or an engineer, electrician, stuff like that, to where you'll actually get like that job skill training.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times, if you say you were an E6, so that's a staff sergeant in the Marine Corps, that's like Congress itself is the only person who can take that rank away from you. But for most times, once you like go to another branch from the Marine Corps, you normally do pick up an extra rank. Instead of losing one, you'll pick up one. And
Hmm.
that's the way I've always seen it happen or heard that it's happened. So I can't really say that you'll get demoted if you move from the Marine Corps.
Yeah, like I didn't know all the facts because obviously a lot what you hear is like hearsay, like some person heard something and they're talking about it.
Yeah.
So yeah, but that's pretty interesting though. And talk about the basic training. So like why would the basic training, and this is purely like opinion based.
Right.
So why is the Marine basic training different from other basics in that like it does not need to be repeated?
So once again, I'm not very educated on the other basic trainings. The only thing that I can really say, like regarding any other basic, would be the Army. How now it's changed to where they have like their little stress cards, and they're like, "Oh, you're yelling too much. Can you please calm down? Give me a break." So
They did not have that when I was there, but it must have been
yeah, I
something they
don't.
were working on because they couldn't even they couldn't cuss at you. But it was getting really bad. Like people were literally getting suicidal. Like, and I'm dead serious. Like we had an issue where somebody tried to hang themselves from the stairs.
Shit.
Yeah.
So one of our little like messed up jokes in the Marine Corps is the third deck flight crew, because most guys that are suffering like a mental illness or something that do commit suicide in the Marine Corps normally jump from a high altitude. So it's like, even though it's not a like a topic to like truly joke about, it's just one of those things, like the military humor is like we're gonna joke about it to cope, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, for
And
sure.
it mainly started in basic training when it was a couple years back. I want to say it was like 2016, 2015, when one of the Marines, well, the recruit at Paris Island, actually jumped from his top deck, and that's what kind of started that. But mainly, why Marine Corps boot camp shouldn't be repeated is because they accomplish the mission that they want there. So for us, it's like completely indoctrination into an occult, how they want us to feel, believe, and think for ourselves. So we don't have our cell phones. It's not as lax as the other branches when it comes to being able to talk to family members freely, being able to do anything. And if you do get to talk to a family member, it's because you worked for it. So we do pugil sticks, body sparring, stuff like that. And one of the goals, and they tell you at the beginning, like your senior drill instructors, they'll say, if you knock his mouthpiece out and you pick it up before he does and you bring it to me, that is yours. And now you get to make a phone call home. So it was like an incentive based thing. Like if you were like missing family and you wanted to talk to them, you had to work your ass off and be violent to get that opportunity.
You
So
had to fight for it.
yeah, so through ways like that, it was indoctrinating that warrior mindset with us
Right.
without really us knowing it, but at the same time still kind of keeping it in the back of our heads like, okay, I'm going to have to fight for everything here.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is just respect based too, because Marine Corps, we're a war fighting branch. That's literally the whole purpose of the Marine Corps, is to fight and win wars.
Yeah.
Not occupation or anything like that. So respect based, it's meaning like just doing just instant willingness and obedience to all orders. So if you have like a squad leader or a CEO telling you, hey, go charge in that building, you're going to do it because they told you to. And you're just, I'm going to use the term brainwashed very loosely because it really is. It's weird how it's like you hear people being called robots
Right.
when we right out of boot camp, whenever you're considered a boot, you really are a robot. Like you're still standing at parade rest out in town, like waiting for a cheeseburger or something. And you'll catch yourself like your natural standing position is just like at attention because you do it every single day, like day in, day out for like 13 weeks. And it's just no bueno.
Yeah, for sure. I remember getting stuck uh, at parade rest a lot if they wanted us to relax. Otherwise, we were at attention at waiting for chow. So I thought it was hilarious. I don't know about what you guys go through with, because I didn't even get, and to be clear, I didn't even get to go to basic. Those that know the Army, I was at 30th AG at Fort Benning, Georgia. It was the experience was dope because I was literally at the same base where Special Forces are trained and where you do airborne training. So all of that was super cool. And then it was kind of a fucked up thing that they processed me out at the JAG building right across the street from the airborne
Yeah.
facility. So you got to see all the towers that they used to drop you from with parachutes. So like they would put us through this presentation for hearing and say these are the type of sounds, like the ongoing like sounds like a lawnmower, right? Engines, right. Loud engines. They go, this is the sound you want to have a hearing protection around. You don't want to be around this sound. You know what I mean? It can mess up your hearing. And then what do? They had a trailer with a generator on it over by Chow. And so, like, you know how some buildings, they'll have like that. If it's designated and built for training, it's going to have a platform in front of Chow for them to line everybody up, right?
Right.
And so that's what we had at Fort Benning. And like, so we're all lined up, but here's the platform, and then here's the trailer. Mm-hmm. And so we're literally right next to it, and there's a generator on the back of the trailer just churning away. And it made me laugh really hard when they booted me out for my hearing. they go, your ears suck. And then I got more pissed off when I found out that these sons of bitches press the button anyways. They're like, yeah, everybody's ears suck. You just press the button, man. I'm like, where the hell were y'all when I was going through this crap, man?
That's just how it is, man. You just press it, even if you don't think, like if you just think you hear it. Because I actually did my hearing test, I want to say like 2 months ago, and I just sit in that soundproof booth, and I'm there with a little clicker. I'm holding everything, and if I just kind of just think that I hear, I'm pressing the button like nonstop. I'm like, they ain't gonna fail me for this.
So yeah, it pissed me off, man, because they tested me 3 times, and my spot cost like $70,000. And they're just gonna be like, "You're gonna have to go home now." What pisses me off though the most is what they do to outprocess you. Like, it sucks because, like, I wanted to serve my country. Don't get me wrong. Like, I'm happy where I'm at now. I love my wife. I wouldn't have met her if I had gone through. Who knows where I would have been?
Right.
Maybe I'd be alive. Maybe who knows? Maybe not, because they would have been chunking me overseas. Hopefully, I don't know why I'm making a
Yeah,
joke
you're good.
about that.
You're good.
Hopefully I'd be
Yeah,
alive.
I know what you mean. That's
But anyways, so but the way they out process, you're like it's. I swear to God, like you could be the most sane, like young adult, like you got your faculties about you. You're not a dumbass, and then you go to this out processing, man, and I swear to God, it makes you feel like you're back in kindergarten.
yeah,
Oh my God, dude. I cannot
definitely.
believe them what them drill sergeants had to go through. It was because you just have idiots, man. Like these guys are just idiots. I know we're all bored as fuck, just kind of hanging around doing nothing all day. And it's just, you're sweeping like because I mean, how it is. They got to keep some
Yeah.
sense of order, even though you're out processing. So every so often they would have us just like clean stuff. And it would be the dumbest thing if somebody doesn't do something, like all of a sudden now we can't like watch TV or watch a movie or something.
Yeah.
And
Like
like
mass
that's
punishment.
like the only thing you want to do. It's definitely ridiculous. But there was some people that I did get to meet along the way. Um, check out this story. So this one drill sergeant, you know the rule, you can't walk on grass, right?
Right.
So we're lined up for chow. The building's here, and then we got a sidewalk that comes out. So you got a little T going on, right? And we're all lined up behind like this way. And so when you're coming in and out, you can't like walk on the grass, in either side of that sidewalk. So people would try to walk around. And it was just a discipline thing. It wasn't like,
Yeah.
I don't really think anybody ever cares to walk on grass. But when you're in basic, it's like you got to follow every rule.
Hmm.
And it's that mindset they're trying to instill in you, right? And so these idiots would yell at people because you get them people in basic who are like, oh, I'm going to be that list writer. I'm going to write your name on a list. I'm like,
Yeah,
all
I
right,
hated those
guy.
guys.
Okay, buddy. Or and then you get those like those smart asses who want to act like they're gonna yell at somebody. Now, granted, communicating, hey, but even then, you should shut up. Like, you don't need to tell somebody. Like,
Yeah.
you don't know who they are.
Yeah. Don't be a,
So
don't be a blue falcon about it.
because they're like yelling at people as they come out because they're walking on the grass. Anyways, the point I'm getting at is there was a drill sergeant that came out. He was pissed because you know how group mentality works, right?
Yeah.
So you get one person saying it, then other people start to chime in, and they don't even know what the heck they're doing, but they're just trying to be part of the group. So that's what happened. Drill sergeant come busting out, almost broke the doors off their hinges, and you know how scary that can be. He comes out, he's pissed off. He's like, oof, he's mad. So he's yelling and screaming because the people that they were yelling at. So basically, these guys went through basic and they put their heart and soul into what they were doing, but they got injured,
Yeah.
so they couldn't continue. So it had nothing to do with their own fault. Like they didn't do anything wrong. They did the best they could, and because I mean, basic's no joke. It's a real
Yeah.
mental game, and so he came out. He was pissed, even though they didn't get to go serve. They didn't do any active duty deployments. It was the fact that they put their everything into what they did, right? So he comes out, he's yelling and screaming, and he's just pissed off. But he's trying to explain to these people why. He's saying, listen, you have no right to yell at these people. You have gone nowhere. Like, these people have done way more than you have. They put their all, and they just, they're not able to continue. But that's not on them, and that's not your place to try to tell them what they can and
Right.
cannot do. And it was just he just ripped everybody a new one. But that
Yeah.
guy's crazy because like he went through a few tours, got shot at, never actually got shot, then comes home, taking a shower one day, house gets broke into, and he gets shot in the gut
Damn.
with the towel, like he's wiping his face. That whole thing. You put the towel,
Yeah.
you're like doing this. That's how he got shot in the gut.
Damn.
Like, I couldn't get shot overseas. I'm getting like tons of bullets shot at me, and then I come home, the most vulnerable spot.
Well, that's like another thing that I don't think people realize too is like you're honestly safer in country than you are here in the States. Like, I've got a lot of buddies that are either currently deployed or have come back from a deployment from their Victor units, and they tell me like, yeah, you'll get shot at and you'll get like you'll have little skirmishes, but like there's more things that can kill you here in the States than there are over there, because over there you're mainly just worried about like IEDs and bullets. But here, you've got cars driving like super fast. You got drunk drivers, criminals. Like there's a bunch of different things that happen here in the States that are more dangerous than actually going over there. Which
Wow.
either way, it sucks that if someone dies over there too. But like our biggest thing here in the States that a lot of people don't really recognize is like the suicide rate in veterans because of that. They're
Right.
so used to defending their life in that type of way that they come over here, and now it's like the little things will set them off and nobody can understand why.
Yeah.
So then they kind of feel like it doesn't really matter to anybody else but them. Like they're the only ones affected by it.
Yeah,
So
and I've actually worked with somebody who did serve before, and his mentality, I could tell, like, he didn't want to listen to anybody except for the person above him, and so I definitely understood, like, people they come home and they're in a certain mindset, and they're very like, uh, they're in some kind of way because they they operated in a way where you're it's definitely an odd transition because I'm not saying I understand. I don't. I'm speculating based on
right,
stories and movies and shit. But like they'll be fighting for their life and stuff like that overseas, and they're dealing with it day in and day out of I gotta fight for my life. Then there's no real transition uh, to coming home. I mean, what I mean by that is, I mean like anything else. Like for example, when you got out of prison, I'm not equating the two, but when you got out of prison, my mom was in prison for 4 years. When she came out, there was a transition period. They didn't just let her out. I mean, generally, sometimes I do. You see that in movies. I mean, that
yeah,
that can happen, but generally speaking, there's a transition period, and they put you in a group home. Now, I don't know if most likely that's just part of like hey, you have to be here.
right,
Um, Obviously, I've never been to prison, so I don't know these things. But there is some sort of transition there, and so what I'm referring to is like as these uh, military service men and women. I'll say that because it's across the board for whoever goes overseas and any active duty combat zones, etc. Um, when they come home, there has to be a transition. There has to be some way to prepare them mentally. And I know, like for example, in the Air Force, they have a program that you start going through. I think it's called TAP.
yeah. We still do that too. I've already finished mine, and our problem with TAPS though. Sorry to cut you off.
No, you're good.
The problem with TAPS right now, and because of COVID especially, which has ruined so much, TAPS now is only on a computer, and all it does is just sends you through basic like the basic things of like how to write a resume, how to come up with a resume, what words to use, like what type of jobs to look into, how to get to certain like profiles of getting a job. And that's
Right.
pretty much all the TAPS is now on the computer, because there used to be the in-person class, but
Yeah.
now TAPS is just all right, you're going to click through it. Because I don't know if you guys had to like take your classes online whenever you were in, but now it's like we do Marine Nets and we have to do like a physical training year,
Mhm.
things like certifications, and we do it online.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. No, I mean, I actually went through a lot of online training for the Army. Before I even got in, I did a lot of basic, actually, like tourniquets. They were big on that. So I actually learned online how to do tourniquets. Um, I mean, hell, I could probably put one together, but it probably wouldn't be that great. But it's one of those things you don't use it, you lose it, right?
right,
And so, yeah, no, I remember doing a lot of training online after I got through the recruitment process. But if we can, okay, so first I want to let everybody know my cousin Richard, he actually is on a phone that was on 22%. I don't know why this dumbass didn't
I'm
charge his
on
phone.
I'm on 9 now, man. It's bad.
So we're
I've
gonna
been
go as
taking
long as we can go, and we'll try to do another episode another time. You know what you got to get, buddy? You got to get one of those big, huge battery packs. It's like there's a thing online. I'll send a link to you, or I'll just send you one for Christmas. So it's like it's a big, huge. It's got a solar panel on one side, So if you
Hmm.
set it outside, it's kind of pointless, honestly. It'll get enough, I guess, in an emergency situation for you to turn your phone on so you can actually make a phone call. So I guess in that aspect it works fine, but it doesn't charge your phone any faster, or I'm sorry, the battery any quick type of way, because I've set mine outside when it only had like one bar left,
Hmm.
and it was sunny as hell. I came back and it barely had two, and it's been charging for over 24 hours.
Damn.
So, anyways, you can charge it up, but the point is, it's a huge ass battery. It's like 20,000 milliamps, and you can plug your cables into it and charge your phone, and it works really well for me. So I'll have to
Yeah.
get you one. Anyways, so yeah, recruiters suck ass. Let's talk about that.
Dude. Oh my God. So thankfully, I actually had a really cool recruiter. He didn't really fuck me in any type of way for my contract because it wasn't really him that pretty much
I'm
pulled
glad
me
he
from the
didn't.
O3. So pretty much like a lot of the recruiters are shit. like
Yeah,
they don't care like because it's a special duty assignment now, like a B billet, and it's like okay, we're getting extra pay, and all we have to do is just send people to the Marine Corps, like that's it, or
yeah.
any branch. So they don't
Well,
really.
the thing that bugs me about the recruiters, if I can touch on that for just a moment, is my experience. I went through a lot of them because I actually tried to go into the Army in 2012, and I didn't know the process. I didn't know, So for me, I'm very sketchy with things I don't understand, and so I can be skittish in a way about like kind of moving forward. So I tried in 2012. I had a shit recruiter, and then 2014, or actually, I think I started the process, but no, it was. I take that back. I tried in 2011. It was a lot sooner than that, or probably during my senior year in high school. Anyways, it's been over a decade, so I can't remember that. But I do know that I tried once before, years prior to 2014, and the difference, what I'm referring to, is the recruiters. Man, they're garbage. And then all of a sudden, because I tried to enlist in the Air Force as well, and the timing sucked because my wife was getting in. We thought we were going to get in at the same time,
Yeah.
but some stuff stopped me medically, and you got to get a shit ton of waivers sometimes, and it's just a lot of mess. It's really dumb because like if you can walk, run, and talk, like there's nothing wrong with you. I have the
Yeah.
same opportunities as you do and same risks as you do. If you get shot at, I get shot at, we're in the same ballpark. You get
Right.
shot in the head, I get shot in the head, we're both fucked. So, anyways, that's just my perspective. I'm sort of like a Captain America story. Uh, so the Air Force recruiter, like they just have this attitude where they see what they might need to do, and they literally decide at that point that they're just not going to work with you, or they're just going to act like they're going to, but they don't put any work into it because they know that you're not an easy win, so to speak.
Yeah, and that's like the problem with the recruiting is that people are just numbers to them, and that's the problem with the military in general, and why a lot of guys have like mental health issues around here is because we're seen as just numbers instead of people.
Right.
So like it's like people will bitch about it all the time. You'll hear it here is like the random urinalysis tests
Yeah.
because military zero drug tolerance
Right.
whatsoever. So they complain about just having to piss every day for a week, but it's just because your number literally got pulled up and you're on the list now. And that's the problem. And the same with like leadership is like, all right, cool, you're not a dude, you're not a grown ass man, but you're just somebody that we're gonna pull in as a number.
Yeah.
Just because if the COs and stuff they fuck someone over, then it's just gonna make them look better to pick up a promotion pretty much. And that's
Yeah,
what
and that's garbage, man. Because I almost got into. So my job was those that know the military, the Army job naming structure. It was 18 X-ray. So I was not a special forces person. There was no guarantee. It's a special forces recruit, which means you just go to the. It was 3. It was 2 weeks in hell. I think now it's 3. And you go through basic, and then whatever special assignments or special stuff you have tacked onto your contract. I had airborne, so I was going to go to airborne school, and then I was going to go to special forces recruit, or 3 weeks in hell,
yeah.
and you know I was really excited to do it because I'm a person that like I really want to I want to push myself to the limits. I want to see what I'm capable of because I learn a lot of shit. I'm a jack of all trades, master of none. But most of the time, if I like programming has been the only thing that's stuck for me. Programming and content,
Yeah.
like video content, stuff like that.
Sorry, I'm checking the battery percentage on you real quick.
You're good. What you got? 2%.
Trying to pull it down here. 4. So I just don't want to randomly end up hanging up on you and not have a viable excuse. I feel like a dumbass now, but sorry.
You know
Carry
what?
on.
Hey, if you're up for it, I could pause. Do you have any type of portable charger?
I do.
Okay, so we can actually pause the recording. Sorry, everybody, but I really want to continue this conversation, and I think it's valuable for you guys because we're going to get into
Sorry,
some
guys.
mental health stuff and some other things that I think are important. So we're going to pause the recording now, and we'll be right back.
All
All
right.
right, guys. So we are back, and we were talking about recruiters and how they kind of it's a huge hit or miss. Mainly in my experience, it's been a miss, and there are good recruiters out there. I've had so I was talking about the Air Force recruiters before, and how when I tried to go in, the first recruiter I got, he was kind of he was all right. He wasn't bad, but like I did not know what he was doing.
Yeah.
And he was trying to. I mean, don't get me wrong. He was. I got to give him credit. He was trying to get me in, but he to a certain extent he saw my wife as somebody who he can get in faster because she was just that super easy recruit.
Yeah.
In regards to paperwork wise, and when I would try to go back in when we moved, so we had got stationed at Barksdale, and I tried to find somebody to talk to, and it was just that guy didn't want to have shit to do with me, man. And it kind of sucks for me because I'm like, of course I want to keep pushing through, but literally recruiters are the barrier to entry in some situations. I can keep trying, but I had found a recruiter in Dallas that was willing to work with me. He was a super nice guy. Not just nice, but he was willing to do what we needed to do because I updated him on the situation. But then once we moved, because when you come back from basic and you come home for a week or whatever, some branches they let you Air Force you can do that. So she was able to come home, but the only reason why she was able to come home was because you do a duty station with a recruiter. So you're basically helping a recruiter out.
Yeah.
So you could be home. All right, yeah, there you go. So you guys do that too?
Yeah, we do. We have a whole week of boot leave. Luckily, mine we had the hurricane had just hit, so they're like, "Oh, cool! You don't get to go to ITB until November," and I had graduated in September, so I got to stay home for a pretty good, decent. But most of that was recruiters' assistants, just helping the recruiters do stuff. So yeah,
Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah, I mean that's pretty much it. I mean, and then from then on, I haven't had an opportunity. I still want to do reserve. But I have to get all my ducks in a row first because I know that if I go to a recruiter, I have to have everything in line for them to have. So it's just because I want my paperwork to be done very easily. I want the process to be as smooth as possible. Now, they work with people with waivers. I'm not saying they don't.
Yeah.
But it depends on the waiver that's needed, and then they kind of decide from there. So, I mean, what's been your experience with recruiters in regards to that kind of thing? Obviously, you're in, so you've been through one, but did you have a good one? Did you have a shitty one?
So I had a pretty decent one. So I'm the one who sought out the recruiter because I was a junior in high school and I was like, man, what am I going to do with my life? Like I got no clue. Right. And then I remember back to when I was in 5th grade and I was like, oh, I want to be a Marine. So I was like, cool, put in some information. And then not even 2 days later, I had a recruiter at the school come talk to me. And I'm still a junior in high school. So he worked with me all the time. So he'd bring me to PT, he'd PT with me on his own. He literally put into me to be a good recruit when I got there, not just a number for him.
Yeah, so that's a good guy. I've actually had. He wasn't my actual recruiter, but he was. So there's active duty recruitment and then there's reserve recruitment, and I can't remember if that guy was reserve, but he wasn't active duty. Anyways, you know how they cycle people in and out and all around or whatever. So the guy's name was Philip Graham. And this dude was the most gung ho. He was soft where he needed to be, but he was tough and hard ass when necessary. And he was one of the only people until this day. I remember him because I'm still connected with him on LinkedIn. And I like he got a different. He's in a different job. Dude's still in the army. He's a badass. Um, he's doing the whole career thing. But and I sent him a message to say, hey, congratulations on the new job. And it's weird. So what people don't know, and my wife's a huge fan of Groot from Guardians of the Galaxies, but that dude can say so much with just one phrase, right? And if people
Yeah.
don't know, I don't remember if they actually explain how he does that. But if you watch the animated series of Marvel's Midas, it's obviously it's a Marvel show. Sorry, I'm getting the name wrong. It's Earth's Mightiest Heroes, Avengers, Earth's Mightiest Heroes. So there's two. It's weird. It's like there's two different types of shows. It's that one. It's another one, but they're both the Avengers shows. You can go on Disney Plus and check it out. But I can't remember the episode. But Vision met the Guardians of the Galaxies. I think it was like a mix of universes or realities or whatever. And so they were like fighting robotic dinosaurs or something. I don't know. I couldn't remember, but it was weird. It was how comics do. The stuff
Yeah.
gets weird and mixed together sometimes. Anyways, so the Avengers are working with the Guardians of the Galaxy. So Vision, because he's obviously a robot, and so he does a lot of cool stuff. He was able to detect the type of like language that Groot speaks, but he explained what it was, and I can't remember what it is, but it's like he's able to do this modulation of tone and whatever. So he says the same thing, but the point I was getting at and bringing that up is just to say that I kind of felt like, him and I said a lot in something short, a little short, sweet message, because he knew what I've wanted to do my whole life, and that's what I wanted to do, and I worked really hard to get there, which is why because I had sold, people don't know this, but I had a vehicle, I had an apartment, I had everything a single guy would want. I left that, like I had a job that I literally lived across the street from.
Mm-hmm.
So I left the job, I sold my car, and I got in the military. So I literally left everything. If I didn't have my immediate family, my mom, to fall back on, I would have been one of those numbers of individuals that come home and I'm now homeless.
Yeah.
And if I did not have my mom, the support system, we can get into that and the mental issues and things like that happens. I'm not saying that I came back from active duty, from anything like that, but I was in the mindset. There's a lot of training that happens before you even get to basic training or even the processing, right? 30th AG. So you're in that mindset, man. You're like living it every single day. I would go in the morning and I would do PT every morning with Sergeant Graham. And that was the guy that I was working with the PT stuff. That got the same guy, recruiter or similar recruiter situation. And for me, like that was awesome because that was an actual leader. And I think the problem nowadays is the military doesn't care about focusing on grooming proper leaders, and you have shitbags.
Yeah.
So yeah,
That's one of my biggest pet peeves too. Is like me myself. Like I really focus on leadership because it's just a very important trait to have, in my opinion. Not only as a Marine or any other service member, but as a grown man or woman. Like you always hear about people talking about like if someone broke into their house, they're going to shoot them or something like that. Like a burglar. It's all fun and games to say that you can do that, or you can lead people out of a burning building or out of like a terrorist type hostage situation. But if you don't work on, caring about people enough to actually do the leadership traits, then there's no point in even saying you do it. Because you can hesitate, go code black in a second. So I feel like knowing what a leader is and what they're supposed to do and how they do it would help a lot with people actually overcoming certain violent acts or just things that aren't cool at all. Like when a bus crashes into a river full of little kids, that's not funny to laugh at, but I'm going to laugh at it anyway because I don't care. a bus full of kids, like, you know, crashes into the river, and you'll hear a story about one little boy. He's like, he got everybody out. Like, he's like, hey, come with me. And, you know, that's what it
You're
takes.
talking about Superman.
No, I'm not talking about Superman, but that
That
is in
came from
Superman.
Superman.
Yeah, that is in
His bus
Superman, but I
crashed in the
wasn't.
river, and
Yeah, yeah,
Superman
yeah.
saved everybody. You're
I'm
talking about
I'm just
Superman.
making metaphors at this point, you know.
You're talking about Superman. Is what you're doing.
All right, maybe. But anyway, so it's still the same concept. You know, somebody had to lead people out of a dangerous situation.
Mm-hmm.
And in the military, you know, you're constant with dangerous situations. So you need to be able to trust who's in charge of you, and you've got the people under you have to trust you. You know, so
Right.
that's why being a shitty leader is something that I harp on so much, is because I hate saying it as a Marine, but there were guys like corporals that have that rank that I would not trust with my life. Like, if they told me to go into like a building to do some shit, I probably wouldn't do it because I don't trust that they'd have my back. Like, if some shit went down, like, and I just got shot, like, I'm shot, I'm dead. Like, that's it. And as a Marine, it's like contradictory to believe that, because the brotherhood is like, hey, you got everybody's back at all times and everybody's got yours. But that's not the case anymore because we have shitty leaders. It's all
Yeah.
like a power struggle now.
Yeah. Yeah, I can understand that. I think the thing that also, because I try to understand, like, where does that come from? And it literally comes from uh, people not. I can't say I understand or know, but I do recall seeing a lot of movies, a lot of, and I actually recall hearing a lot of stories, because and we can get into the old Marine you had met that you had a lot of admiration for, and you talk to people like that, and those are people that they have a lot of. I mean, they were probably hard heads when they were our
Oh, yeah.
age, your age kind of thing, and like, but they are the people that are of good character, and because they're of good character, that was just sort of the majority, I would say, probably back in the day. I don't know, I wasn't there, I didn't, but that's what I see and hear from stories and movies and things like that. And I miss that now, and I can see that, like, social media, and we can get into more mental health stuff, like social media has diluted things to the point to where it's hard for us to truly have, I would say, overall good character, because it's so easy and quick for us to make jokes about a lot of things, and I'm not saying joking and having fun is bad, but you know we go back to that group mentality, and I had mentioned that before the show, or I probably mentioned it on the show, but either way, where like people get together and they have this like, oh no, I was talking about the my experience with the people walking on the grass. That's right. But the group mentality of people, what people have, and like they want to be a part of, right? That was actually one of the main reasons why I got in the Army. I wanted to be a part of. I wanted a system, something that I could just do every single day, and I didn't have to think. It wasn't that I didn't want to think for myself. It was that it was less stressful for me
Yeah, it's like a
to
set
just
schedule.
exactly have a structure, have a place that I could be and be a part of, and be a part of something greater. And not only that, but the brotherhood, that same thing that you had talked about, you know. So that was another issue, that when I came home, if I didn't have my support system, thankfully it was my immediate family, my mom. But if I didn't have that, I would have been one of those statistics, honestly, because I was super depressed when I came home. Like I had some really hard times. So
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to it when I get out too, because I keep having this thought, like, I'm gonna get out there, and like I know I've got like somewhat of a support system. Like, I've got my best friend out there waiting for me to get back, and then I've got Kayla, my big sister. So the rest of my family I don't really talk to much, besides like you and a few others. But it's the concept of like, I'm so used to being with like the boys constantly.
yeah,
Like, my buddy, like, I before the show I walked over there to talk to him for a second. It's just like, I know that if I'm feeling down, and they do this religiously. If they know I'm feeling down, like they'll text me like, "Hey, you want to go get some food?" And I'm like, "I'm not feeling like it, man." They'll literally come to my room and drag me out and like bring me. And it's like you know who can care about you and who doesn't. And being in that system constantly with like your guys, like your brothers, it's like you trust them with everything because you know that they've got your back.
Right.
And
And I think I'm gonna keep repeating myself. I really believe that, and I was talking to a friend about this the other day, is male mental health is trash right now.
yeah,
And one of the major reasons is because, and with respect to your situation, a lot of people don't actually have their dads in their lives.
yeah,
And for either just, they just weren't there, or unfortunately they're no longer with us. But those people that didn't have a father at all, like, the identity of a male is skewed. My dad, thankfully, he's still here. I love him. We have a great relationship now, but he did struggle with alcoholism and drug addiction back in the day. He doesn't have that anymore, thank God. But
the good dads did that stuff together.
yeah,
Oh,
and so, man, memories. I remember, man, your dad. Did he ever tell you about the time I was burnt the house down?
no,
Oh my God. He
God,
was staying with my mom and I and us in Illinois, and he was staying upstairs. And I woke, and I was in the room next to, it's one of the weird houses. Like, you had different bedrooms, but they were upstairs. But they were like, you had to go through one room to get down. It was weird.
yeah.
And I'm probably remembering the house wrong. But anyways, the point is, I had to piss in the middle of the night, and I didn't want to wake anybody up. I had good intentions. I flipped the light on. I was like, oh shit, it's bright. So I grabbed a towel and I put it over it. And obviously, eventually, it started to smoke really bad.
God,
And they caught it in time, thank God. And I'm laughing. Shouldn't laugh about something that can kill people, but I was an idiot. I thought I was doing something good. I was like, I don't want to wake anybody up. Yeah, and so that was because that's the thing in my family. I say our family. I say my family, like, immediately, like my mom and my dad and them. In our family, it's hilarious, and I love this about our family. And it's so funny, and it was super foreign to my wife when she was introduced to my family, because we just talk shit about each other,
Yeah.
and we're like laughing about dumb shit that we've done in the past. And she comes into the family, she's like, y'all are like not nice. I'm like, nah, we're just talking shit. Like, it's cool. Just get used to it. And
And
it's funny because, go ahead.
I think that's another problem with the ideal of masculinity,
Yeah.
is because, like you're saying, like some people don't have father figures or just male role models in their life at all.
Right.
And so if someone, like how me and you can sit here and talk shit to each other is different than someone who never really had any type of role model at all.
Right.
They can't take the joke. They can't kind of dish it back, like take what they're dishing out.
Right.
It's like they can't separate, like, I'm just going to call it work and play. They can't separate, like, when someone's actually meaning something and when they're just joking. So they're just going to constantly just think that they're meaning it and fight them. And I think that's a big, problem with the ideal of masculinity is not that there's a thing of toxic masculinity. It's just a lack of masculinity.
I would definitely agree, because I've noticed that, and I use some people that I've met, like Philip Graham, Sergeant Graham. I can't remember. I know he's got more rank since then. I have to remember what rank he is now, but he's probably still a sergeant, obviously. And the reason why I say that is because obviously they're sergeant until they get out, because if they're enlisted. But some people do go from enlistment to officer, which is the reason why I brought that up. But he was a good role model during that period of my life. And so people like that give a shit, where it's, I say they're soft where they need to be, but there's guys that are still good leaders, but they're just hard asses all the time.
Yeah.
But I have found that it's super helpful to be soft when necessary because you're never dealing with the same individuals. I know way back in the day, men were just hard asses all the time, and that's just how they were. They're like, do as I say, or I'm gonna, and so. But I want to bring up an example about a friend of mine who has unfortunately passed away. His name is Jason Lamar Dewberry, and I want to bring him up because we're going to be talking a lot about mental health and stuff like that. But like the way I was born with, I was premature, had a blood clot in my brain. It leaked. It basically created pressure in my heart, and actually my heart blew up. So my left ventricle is bleeding into my lungs. So disregard that part, but this kind of created stuff that kind of messed you up, It's nothing documented. Like I can't say that I have A, B, C, or D. It's just shit that happened, and it just made me think differently, which I'm extremely grateful for because I'm not a herd mentality. I'm an open-minded individual. I'm not saying there's not people out there that are that, but I'm just saying that's what kind of I grew up. I grew up with like, I thought so different that it was hard for me to understand in the environment, that cookie cutter educational environment. And so it seemed like, and then I get frustrated easy because of that. So I want to bring that up because, sometimes guys, they think they have a problem, but they don't. And I want to be clear about this. You think you have a problem, but you don't, because, you get to a point in your life where you start accepting who you are as a person, and you start to kind of like slow down and I don't want to say cement, but like, how cement, you mix it and then it kind of dries and it kind of goes into the shape it's in. It's kind of the same thing with guys. As we grow, we start to become the person that we want to be. And some guys struggle because they just don't truly understand who they are. They don't like, and then you get married and it's a whole nother layer. So I'm married now, have been for years now. And I've learned that there was a lot that I felt I needed. And when I say that, I'm saying just because I'm realizing I'm having struggles and troubles with just, as a man, should I be this way? Should I be that way? It's like, it's difficult to understand because it's like, how far do I go with this? What direction do I go with this? And when it comes to, relating that to being, masculine, it's like, well, what is masculinity? Like, how does that work? And there's a lot of stuff you kind of put in the mix there. There's, growing your understanding of how to be fatherly. We want kids. So like, I'm trying to understand how to do that. We have a dog. So I'm trying to be patient and loving and just learn some behavioral traits. I'm not saying I'm going to treat my kid like a dog, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, I get what you're saying on that.
Yeah, so I think men in your young 20s, like, it's just a matter of you don't know what you're struggling with until you're going through it.
Right.
And once you're going through it, it makes you question what to do, and if you don't have somebody that can help you and encourage you. And what I meant before, to bring it back to the point of, hard versus soft in a personality, the reason why I think it's important with my buddy Jason, when I worked with him, the way that I process, so I would get frustrated and I would have a hard time, but like he would be understanding and he would work with me and he would help me kind of work through the situation. So he was tough on me when I needed it, as a coworker, but as a friend. And, but he was easy and soft when necessary, to help me kind of work through a situation. And, he has kids. And so my buddy Edgar and I, when we were kind of joking about some old stories, we kind of mentioned that, like, cause I didn't understand what it was until, we had started talking about it. And he was like, yeah, man, it's probably cause he had kids. So like having kids definitely changes a man, but sometimes you still do struggle with that. But it's definitely just, you have to understand that it's okay. And it's also okay. I think another thing that we were talking about is it's okay to like talk about what you're struggling with. That's another thing, a lot of times we want to get inside of ourselves and we want to separate ourselves from the world. and that's not healthy. But people need to understand. So, like you had mentioned, your friends, if you're not feeling good one night, they're gonna come and they're gonna drag your ass out, and we're gonna go grab some food. That is what friends need to do. Sometimes you do need to be to yourself, but for the majority of it, you need to get your ass out, and we're gonna go grab some food, and we want to make you feel better. We want to make you feel loved, and that you matter to your friends. So,
And I think that's a big thing with mental health too. Is like not many people feel they have a purpose, and like you're talking about growing and figuring out, how we're going to grow into what type of man we want to be or woman,
right.
who we want to be when we get older. And so a lot of it's shit. My bad. I forgot what I had. I had it and I lost it.
It's cool. I mean, I have a bad habit of like diving into something, and then like I start getting into stuff, and I start trying to go to different points, and then I completely forget where my original point is. I've gotten actually way better. So I used to never trail back to the original point. I would go too far on a tangent, but now I'm starting to get better at that, where I kind of go into a tangent that's kind of necessary or it has a point, and I'm able to bring it back. So I was talking about like, man, I'm just trying to help you remember.
I got it now.
Go. Yeah. Interrupt me. Heads up. Interrupt me if you got something, because if I'm still talking, I'll fuck you up. So go ahead.
Yeah. So what I was trying to get at is basically there's most people feel like a lack of love, a lack of purpose, and 2020 being the year that it has been, a lot of people have felt even less than what they were trying to be. So I get it personally. After my dad passed away, I did lock myself away. I completely just stepped back from everything. I didn't want to talk to family, friends, nothing. And so it wasn't that I didn't think that people didn't love me, but it was that I let myself think that. Like I believed it myself because I was the one separating myself from other people. So, and I wish a lot of people could understand that too. It's not that people don't care about you, and it's not that people don't love you. It's that if you sit there with a thought in your mind and you just kind of keep it going for a while, you're going to start to believe it. So that's why it is important to have those support systems that will drag you out of your room and tell you like, hey, retard, let's go get some food. Like, because you're gonna sit there and you're gonna keep on the same thing over and over, and you're gonna believe it. And that was my problem. Is like I was like how I was talking to you before we started the show. I was like, hey, any pretty girls? I'm trying to get a girlfriend. Like, I keep getting on the side. It's like, oh, I'm gonna be alone. I can't find anybody that's actually, wife material or anything like that.
Right.
But
heads up, ladies, slide into them DMs.
But trying to
what's your Instagram, bro?
Richard Franks. It's just it. It's solid. It's
just your name, Richard Franks?
That's my name.
All right, ladies, slide in them DMs.
But anyway, so it's like I started trying to take my own advice on what I just said. Is like I keep believing that because I keep telling myself that.
Yeah.
And I'm not allowing myself to try to make those connections. So I feel once we all kind of acknowledge like why we're feeling the way we are, why we're trying to believe what we want on those certain aspects, is how we'll grow out of it. Because mental health, like me, like I'm saying, like I'm not going to say that I don't go through things, because I do. But my mental health in general is pretty trash. Like there's no like sugarcoating it. I suffer with a lot of mental health disabilities, pretty much. And you can call it autism too, but that's the Marine Corps in me. But a lot of it is just me trying to figure out like who I really do want to be. And
yeah, you mean like overall like mental issues?
Yeah.
Like, just to be clear, there's a difference between like not for you, the audience. Like he is obviously speaking that there's a difference between like mental issues and like diagnosed mental disabilities. Just to be clear, he's not trying to say he has something unless he's actually diagnosed. I don't think he would be in the military if he was. But you get the point. No, it's cool. It's cool. I'm trying to be. People know. Yeah, but just
thorough,
there's a military humor in there.
Yeah. But that's one thing that like bothered me with my dad, when he passed, because like I knew that he was going through a lot of things.
Yeah.
But I also felt like at my age, I was 19 whenever he passed away. Like I hadn't even turned 20 yet, and I didn't know how to deal with it because I never really experienced that kind of death before. Like the only death like really in my life before then was my grandpa, Buford. And that was like kind of the
Yeah,
initial
yeah,
death
yeah.
response.
Grandpa Buford.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
then like I kind of watched him kind of deteriorate over the years, doing drugs. He drank for a while, and then he quit drinking, but then he stayed on drugs, and his mental health started decaying along with that, because we had gone through a lot of different trials and stuff. He was same thing with women. He'd have a different woman like almost every week, because he didn't feel like he could trust any of them either. And so like his mental health started degrading to the point where it's like you want to help him, but you don't know how.
Right.
And so like me at the age, I didn't know how. I didn't know what I could have done, anything like that. And so after like the Friday before he passed away, we had talked on the phone. Everything was fine. We had a great conversation about like how much we love each other, how much things are going to change for the future, how everything's going to be all right. And then that Tuesday is when I got the call saying that he had killed himself. And so it kind of like it shook me really bad, and that's why I did lock myself away, because I didn't want to believe it was real.
Right.
And the thing I'm getting at on that is, people can make it seem like they're okay, and you won't know what to do, and then when something happens, it's going to be immediately like, oh, I should have done this. I can't remember the actual quote, but it's like I can't even remember the word right now, but it's whenever you're looking back, like you're remembering things. It's like you're going to be a genius because it's already happened. Now you know exactly what you should have done, what you could have done.
Right.
And that's something I would not wish that on anybody in my life, that type of pain and that type of loss to go through. But when things like that happen, it makes you start questioning like how serious you've taken other people's mental health.
Right.
How you've taken your own. And so like I realized like there was a lot of times I could have been less selfish, or I could have talked to him more, reached out or hung out with him, stuff like that would have improved his mental health. But because I was unaware to most of it, I could do anything. So I feel like it's hard to really see the signs and symptoms of people, because obviously in the military, like they preach that to us all the time. It's like, if you're thinking about suicide or anything like that, like talk about it. But the thing is, in the military, and why it's such like a bad thing to do that, is like you talk about it and you immediately get burned. Like you'll immediately like get separated, and that's why I'm getting out. Is because I was going through some stuff like my dad, and like about him too, and I was like, you know what, I don't feel like I can do this anymore. And I went and talked to Chads, and I talked to my staff sergeant, just trying to get some type of like outside source like to talk about. And then
trying to get some support system. Yeah.
And the next thing I know, I'm sitting in like the mental health ward for like 5 days, because they thought I was going to kill myself. And I was like, it's not that I want to die. It's the fact that I felt like it was the appropriate thing. Not that I was going to go out and do it, but that's just how I was feeling at the moment.
I really want to discuss how the existing system is trash, because, like you had mentioned, the stuff that you had went through, but like there is nothing available that I'm aware of. And obviously it's not like I'm Google. We can Google it, obviously, but we still don't even know what to Google, because, it could be a certain company or whatever. But the point is, there's nothing standardized in almost every major city that allows for people to be aware, like, hey, if you are literally thinking about killing yourself, there are places you can go, there's people you can talk to where, but I don't want to dive too deep into a different tangent, but like I really want to make a point that has to do with the reason why it's difficult for people to kind of come forward. When you have to provide for yourself, there's no way for you to deal with your mental health. You have no time. We have to work. And when you get home, you have kids, you have family, you're in school, or you got a side hustle or whatever. So the reality is, when people say like you have like you can make time to better your mental health, like you got to do it, you got to make the choice. But that's the thing, like people, so at what you mentioned, people are fearful of coming forward saying anything, because they don't want to be that guy or that girl that has those problems. And in reality, if we normalized mental health issues, then it wouldn't. And in part, I would say it's a multifaceted issue. So like it's it's part social media. It's part governmental, policies and things like that. Because if there were, and I'm not saying there's not programs, I'm not saying there's not things. Again, we can Google
Yeah.
things into our heart's content. But like the point I'm getting at is it's not normalized enough for there to be something that we can recall. Is the point I'm getting at? Like, how quickly they they make you to be able to remember prescription medication
Yeah.
commercials or whatever. And like there's not a system in place for you to be able to take a break. Like there's nothing in like medical. So if you get health insurance, let's talk about that. You get health insurance. There is, from what I recall, and I don't know about TRICARE, but in like if I were to get health insurance from my company, there is nothing that covers me for mental health issues. And again, I don't know the finer details, but what I'm referring to is it's not like I can take 2 weeks off and go fix my mental problems. Go somewhere where I can literally not. And people call that's a vacation. But if even that you don't have, like the military is one of the only places where you can literally gather 2 days a month of leave, and most of the time, if you need to go take care of stuff, you don't even need to take leave. Sometimes they'll just let you go home. Like here, if we had something like I had a real bad like pain in my abdomen, so I had abdominal pains, and we thought it was going to be like super bad, like it was that bad of pain. And then I had like, but the point is like it was bad enough to where I had to leave work. I couldn't talk, like I couldn't have a conversation, like the pain was that bad. And so they let my wife leave work. But the benefit of being in the military is you're always paid, so it's like salary, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they're not going to take your pay because you left.
Yeah.
So that's the difference between a job in the military, which is why if anybody's thinking of like, why should I join the military? There's a lot of benefits. If you don't want combat, there's plenty of jobs you can do in the military. But
Oh
you don't
yeah.
want to join the military, I don't want to get shot at. Do you have any? Just to have, people don't understand, just to have the combat portion of the military, which is a very large portion, obviously, there has to be support behind that.
Yeah, like the infantry, like our biggest thing is like for the Marine Corps is every other MOS is in direct support of the infantry, because without other people, the infantry couldn't move. You got to have your beans, bullets, and blankets. Like you got to have those things, or else we can't go out there and do the job that we were hired to do.
Right.
But back on the mental health thing though, it's like why a lot of people, including myself, was scared to come forward about what was truly bothering us is because I'd seen it happen before, and I was like, oh, that's never going to be me. I'm not going to allow myself to get to that point. But life happens. So when I came forward, it's like I got labeled immediately like a shitbag and a sad panda, and the way it was like, oh, he's just trying to get out of work. I was like, no, like that's not it. Like I would rather be working than sitting in a psych ward and scrubs for 5 days and that'd be it. Like that's the problem I feel with mental health in the military or just in general is, there's so many negative things that follow along with it because society doesn't recognize it truly. Like on Facebook, you follow me on Facebook, you see all the dumb crap I post, but I also try to mitigate that with a lot of actual important posts to me about mental health or about certain like just humanitarian rights in general. And I feel like mental health is something that should be a humanitarian right. Like you're saying, like if you were having a bad crisis, like you should be able to take a small vacation to fix yourself, orient yourself in a position to where you can handle it better.
Right. I want to be clear though. It's not. I don't want to label it a vacation because to your point, there are people who take advantage of the system. So there are people that do that. But let me be clear as to why that's a thing. People are not taught the importance of, right? So you're taught the importance of why driving safe is important. You don't want to kill other people. You're taught the reason why like speaking of what we did today, we went through a license to carry course this morning, and the guy was stressing so much. And respect to the people we were shooting with. Some of them are idiots because they were not they weren't realizing that anything you do with a gun is important to be safe. And Like you don't think, which is why I'm a huge proponent of gun safety training at a young age.
Yeah.
When you move that gun, if it's not pointed in a safe direction, at any point there's a possibility of it going off.
Yeah.
And one lady had like started walking behind everybody. Like she was not told to move. Like it wasn't like if you don't move, you're gone. It was like she had taken upon herself to leave the line that we were on and walk behind everybody with a loaded gun and was swinging it, not intentionally, but she didn't know
Yeah.
she was doing it. And so it's like, but anyways, the importance of gun safety, the importance of teaching ingraining it in your brain. It's just like, so in Japan, I'm a huge fan of what they do for the kids. First couple of years of education, they don't even learn anything. Math, science,
Yeah.
that kind. They don't learn that. They learn how to be respectful. Literally, and I don't know if it's certain schools or if it's a thing just across all of Japan, but they actually dish themselves food. They work. They clean up after themselves. The whole 9 yards. They literally are taught to be respectful first couple of years. So that's ingrained. And so that can go into gun safety. That can go into any number of things. But I think mental health. The education system as a whole is a whole other conversation. But like that kind of stuff needs to be taught. I don't think people need a cry room. Let me be clear. I don't think people need to be, because there's a difference between people having legitimate issues and people being a little bitch.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Like I say that primarily to say that if somebody's legit having issues, legitimate issues, I mean, this person's stable as fuck for a good long time, or so to speak,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden, they start to, something happens or whatever, and that's different. There are people that are diagnosed with depression and things like that. I'm not trying to speak against that. I'm not saying people don't have it, but I'm just speaking to the people that take advantage of the system, so they can, whatever, because they don't have any respect for either. Because that's the one thing that pissed me off in the Army when I was in. Some people didn't have respect for what they were doing, and some people didn't even want to be there. And I'm like, why the fuck did you sign up? It was voluntary. This was not a draft, dumbass.
But yeah, like that's the thing too, and like on gun safety, and like I agree with you, like gun safety in general, because this is America. There's no way anybody will ever actually truly take any guns from us. It's just my own personal belief, but the importance of gun safety is really big. And like, speaking of idiots,
I mean, some people can try.
Yeah, bring it on, boys. I already got the Boogaloo playlist, but anyway, like I almost got shot when I was in recruit training because of idiots. Like they don't. A lot of them come from cities, and this is me coming strictly from a southern raising, where guns is like everyday life. Is some people come from like bigger cities to where it's like almost impossible to have a gun anywhere near you. So they're not used to the trigger control. They're not used to, hey, aim your weapon down at all times, or make sure your weapon is not loaded at all. Because in the military, we constantly get told stories of the fuck ups. Just the safety briefs. It's the reason they're telling us certain things, that even if it sounds stupid, is because it's happened. And we had a safety stand down because one guy, I don't drop names, so I'm not, or ranks. I'm not gonna say that, but I'm saying one guy, he was practicing his quick draw with his pistol. Just because he was doing interior tactics training at the time, and so he was just practicing at home. Like a dumbass, and I fully believe this, and I will never say anything otherwise. He is just stupid because he had a newborn baby sitting on the couch and his wife, and he's just sitting there quick drawing. I'd like to think he checked to see if anything was in the pistol, but he didn't. So he's just quick drawing, had no trigger discipline, and he accidentally shot his newborn. Yeah.
You're kidding.
So I'm not. So dumb, like stupid shit happens, and that's why it's important to know like what you were doing, and not to think of your gun as a toy, even if you're practicing. Like me personally, when I've practiced anything like with my weapons, even if it's just like drill to like kind of reintegrate like something, if I'm drilling with first sergeant, like I will grab a rubber rifle or I will grab a toy gun, because quick draw, literally you can buy a weighted plastic pistol of the same weight and the same model and get just the great practice with it. Because guns aren't toys. They're not. They're not toys. They're tools. And like it broke my heart when I heard that story. Like it's shitty and it's awful, and it happens a lot. Like we had a sergeant a couple months back. Well, not in the months. I think it was last year actually. He was just fucking around on post, cleaning his weapon, and I use cleaning very loosely because I wasn't there. But you know how the Lance Corporal Underground goes. All the knowledge gets passed around.
Right.
So he was just fucking around on his like just playing with his pistol and accidentally shot himself in the head and killed himself. Like guns aren't tools.
They're not. They're not. No, they're not. And they're not definitely not toys. So I'll give you. So today at training, one thing that's super important is like never, ever, 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 ever. Like literally make it a ingrained rule. The barrel of a gun is to never face you.
Yeah.
Ever. There's never going to be a situation that a barrel of a gun needs to face you unless that barrel is completely separated from the actual gun itself, and there's no possible way for there to be a bullet in that chamber and for it to go off. Like that chamber, that barrel has to be separated for you to be looking at it to clean it. I'm being like serious. Like
Well, you don't
break
even have
down
to
your
look,
gun.
you don't have to look into inside a barrel to clean it anyway. Like that's like you get a bore snake. Like so when we clean our pistols, like you can take off like the upper receiver of it and all that too, like the hammer and all that. But honestly, like you're saying, you take it apart. Like you have to disassess your weapon if you're gonna look down anything. And even
Right.
if you are, you make sure that you're looking from the back because you literally take a bore snake and you just push it down, and then you kind of
Yeah.
do a quick glance.
Because I'm only speaking from the experience I have with my pistols. I have a pretty big, well, not pretty big, but it's like it's a regular size, I would say, 9mm pistol, and I try to be when I use it regularly, I try to clean it regularly. Last time I cleaned it, or let me like because when I first learned how to take the thing apart, I found that you could take the barrel out, take it completely separate from the
Yeah.
thing, and I would just I don't know, I don't. Hearing the story that I heard today makes me not even want to look down. That's why I'm being serious about the whole don't even
Yeah.
look down it. Because this lady that I had that was working with, or not working with us, but she was getting her, license to carry as well. I don't know what her reasoning was, but she was trying to troubleshoot a gun that wasn't firing properly. She looked at it and shot herself in the head.
Damn.
I don't know how she's still alive, but she was speaking about the accident that she had made, and I'm thinking it didn't dawn on me till later. I'm like, you shot yourself in the head, and somehow you're still here trying to get a license to carry. You're a brave woman.
So I'll go through something real quick, and because I feel like there's obviously gonna be like a lot of military personnel or people interested in the military in general that'll listen to your podcast too. So you're gonna learn the 5 weapon safety rules. They'll call it the 4, but there's a 5th unknown one. I don't know why they call it unknown since we know it. But first one, it's treat, never keep. Yeah, treat, never keep. Treat every weapon as if it were loaded. Never point your rifle at anything you do not intend to shoot. Keep your fingers straight and off the trigger until you're ready to fire. And then keep your weapon unsafe until you intend to fire. And then the 5th one is to know your target and what lies beyond and between it. Meaning, if I'm shooting paper targets in the middle of my yard and there's kids playing around, I need to make sure I know where they are, because if I shoot through that paper target and there's just so happens to be a kid or another person or a dog or something back there, I could potentially kill whoever's behind that or in front of it.
Yeah.
So you have to keep those things in mind. And it's easy for me to say these things because, Marines, we pride ourselves on our marksmanship abilities, on our warfighting capabilities, because that's like our little robot thinking. Our indoctrination is complete warfighting. Right. So it's easy for me to say these things, but coming from people who have never really touched a gun or haven't been around them much, like it's very important to learn those 5 rules right there. And if you just follow those 5 to a T, there should be no accidents whatsoever ever to occur.
Right.
Just like the first one itself is foolproof. Treat every weapon as if it were loaded.
Right.
That one right there. Like, if you don't know if a weapon's loaded, don't immediately pick it up from like the base. Like if someone, so for us, if someone's like handing off a gun to us, like a pistol, for instance, yeah, I'm gonna grab it from the barrel, but I'm gonna make sure it's not pointing at me and it's pointing at the ground. I'm gonna grab it like there, and I'm gonna make sure his hand is off of it completely before I pull it from him. That way, I know he doesn't have his finger on the trigger, and when he pulls it, like pull away, it's gonna shoot me or something. Like, just making sure that every weapon is unloaded is very important.
Yeah, definitely. And there's a difference between single action and double action. I've actually learned that today. I didn't know that before. I'm not an expert in firearms by any means. You and to be clear too, I think the most dumbest thing that people can do is obviously people are going to make fun of, but those that are making fun of those that don't know, you're an idiot. And the reason why I say that is because there's no reason why you should make fun of somebody that doesn't know. If they don't know, they don't know. You need to be an example to help them learn, because gun safety is super important. But more importantly, though, you want to make them to you want to make the environment of learning gun safety to be something that can be fun, but it's also serious as well, because it's fun to shoot. It's fun to get good groupings. It's fun to go hunting. I want to learn how to go hunting. By that I mean I want to learn how to hunt animals. I want to shoot rifles. I love rifles. We're definitely going hunting sometime for sure. But today we were going over that too. The guy that was teaching us, he was a 20-year retired police officer. He was actually a police captain, actually, and he was talking about, like you mentioned, one of the rules that we had to learn was knowing what we're shooting at, what is behind it, and what is beyond it. So, to those that don't understand, so you can't just, even in a situation where you're justified in shooting somebody, it doesn't matter. You literally can be charged criminally if you shoot someone even accidentally. So it literally brings a whole new aspect to, you don't just buy a gun, get your LTC or your license to carry or whatever it's called in your state, and all of a sudden now it's okay to just shoot someone. It's not.
Yeah.
Like, there's so much, like, literally, no joke, you can almost guarantee you're gonna get arrested every single time there's a shooting and someone gets shot. It's guaranteed.
Even if you're justified.
Right. You're gonna get shot. You're gonna you're gonna get arrested is what I meant. You're not gonna get shot. Hopefully. But there is a risk to bodily harm though too, which is why it goes into the portion of, like, you and I are good guys. We want to help out if we see a situation, but it's clear you shouldn't actually dive into just to help people unless, there's a difference, right? If somebody's and you can clearly see that they're literally going to be in bodily harm or possible death, that's different. The guy was explaining, like, you can in those situations step in, but then even then it's still tough because, like, you have to have, because legal fees are just expensive as hell. So you just have to keep that in mind. It's not like all this, oh yeah, I did a great thing, I saved somebody's life. But there are people that are family members of the person you shot.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter whether that dude was in the right or wrong.
Well,
they can sue you.
One thing I want to stress about that though is, you like you're saying, you got your carrying permit.
Right.
You can own a gun and you can carry it. And I know Marines who can't shoot for shit. So
right.
if you get a gun, something to actually think about is to constantly practice with it. Because if you're practicing your aim, eventually you're going to get better at it. If you're doing good technique. I don't know why I keep pretending to draw for a pistol or like force a habit or something. But when you practice about it and you get better at it, now it's no longer like, oh, I'm going to fire an empty magazine just for the hell of it. Like, your first shot should be your last shot, in my opinion. If you're trying to defuse any situation, your first shot should be your last. And another thing that isn't taught, and especially in the military, in my opinion, is that any loss of life is unnecessary. There's a continuum of force. It's shout, show, shove, shoot. So instead of immediately shooting somebody, try to de-escalate the situation instead of, oh, hey, that guy's got a gun right there. I'm just going to pull mine and, blast him. Like Danny DeVito. Like, you can't do that. You need to understand that life is important in any shape, form, or fashion.
Right.
And that just because someone's committing evil, besides pedophiles, let me make this clear. I condone 100% the shooting of pedophiles on site. Don't care. But if it's anything else, like any type of evil, it's going to be a constant thing. But make sure you can justify it. Like each round you shoot needs to be justified.
Right.
Like it's got to be a life or death situation, in my opinion.
Yeah, there was a story of a guy who his daughter was sexually assaulted or raped. I don't remember the details of which it was. I believe it had to have been raped because, well, either way, the point I'm getting at was I was just trying to remember the details. I couldn't remember the details, but it was either or. But it was bad enough that you get the point. Like either one is terrible. But the point I'm getting at was the father beat the guy to death, and he wasn't charged. So I think that was in the state of Texas. I have to figure that out. But there are scenarios where, like, even without a gun, like, it's just, I don't know, justified in that situation. I don't know. It can be different in every court, every state. But bringing it back though, the reason why we brought up the whole like gun safety thing is because it has a lot to do with like people that have access to firearms and mental health, and then attempted suicide or things like that. And it's so important for people to understand, like, that's like you had mentioned before, like there's no way for you to know how somebody's going to be like, but it still doesn't mean that people shouldn't reach out. They shouldn't, like, I think the thing, and you've been in high school most recently. Mine was over a decade ago.
Dude, that was like 4 years ago. What the
fuck? For me, that was like, 2010 is when I graduated. So,
well, I'd say 2 years, almost 3. Yeah, about 3 years, because I graduated in 2018.
Yeah. So I would like to encourage, like, you have friends that, you guys bullshit, you talk shit, all that kind of stuff. And we make fun of people, all those things. But there needs to be a limit in which we reach out, we try to see. It's not saying you got to be friends with everybody. I get it. Yeah. It's not an easy thing to be friends with every person. Nobody's trying to say that. I'm not trying to be sitting around a fire singing Kumbaya. Like, there's people you just don't agree with.
Yeah.
But from my experience, what I've learned, what I've practiced is every day when I go out the door, if I see somebody, I'm going to treat them with the respect, and I'm going to open the door for them. I don't care who they are. I don't care what the color is. I don't care what gender they are. It doesn't matter. Like, I just give the respect that I want back until I get the disrespect that I don't want. Then that's when you do whatever you feel you need to do at the time.
Well, see, on that, so when we were talking about masculinity, it actually brought something up from, I want to say, like, maybe a month and a half ago. Nothing happened recently for me, so it's always a little bit of time away. But I got a buddy who, he's very insecure about his own masculinity. And so me and another good friend that was talking that would pull me out of my room, we were trying to teach him what we know about masculinity. Like, the most important things to us about how to be a man, because it's not all you had to fight somebody, because that was his reasoning. He's like, I'm not a violent person, and I don't like fighting people, and I don't like confrontation. Right. I was like, being a man isn't about being violent. Being a man, in my opinion, is taking care of people and treating them just like a good dude, if that makes sense. Like, just treat everybody like a good dude, even
right there. Exactly. Like, there's a movie that I think kind of encapsulate this as a little bit, but I know he's like a little too nice in my opinion. But Mr. Deeds, have you ever heard of the movie?
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Deeds. So the guy, like, he's a gentleman, he's a nice guy, until somebody tries to, in the movie, it's a fake situation that's created to basically uh, lie to the guy. But there's a guy that was like, stealing a purse and mugging the lady and all that kind of stuff, and he beat the hell out of him.
Oh yeah.
So there is it's it's one thing where I would love to talk to monks and people who actually have vows of no violence or whatever the case. The people that just I want to
Yeah.
have conversations with those people because it's like that might be something that's easy to do in the area that you live.
Yeah.
But when you're in an environment where you're surrounded by people that don't believe the same things you believe, it's not the same. And then, like, if you have the skills, like, for example, a lot of monks actually have martial arts training, at least the ones that I was looking into. And I think it's the Shaolin monks. That's what it is. Because there's different types of monks.
Yeah.
But anyways, they have a lot of martial arts training. So the good question is like, those that don't believe in violence, like, what do you do if somebody needs help? How do you help them? Like, how does that work? Like, how do you go about that? It's a very good question. But the point I was getting at before I get too much off track was there's definitely a line, and it has to do with there can be belligerent guys, but there's also a way to exit a situation that we all forget. For me, there was a situation, I'm not going to say names, obviously, as well, but there was a situation with a sergeant that is over my wife. He, we got invited to his house, all that kind of thing. It's not like you just like everybody
Yeah.
wants to hang out, spend time, all that kind of stuff. That was the one house we'd go to and have like parties and stuff, and just have a good time, drink and have fun. And there was towards the end of the night, he had a little too much to drink, and that's what it ended up, in my opinion, to being. He just had too much to drink, and him and I started getting into verbal altercation. And I had like stopped drinking for like 2 hours, so it wasn't like I was being a dumbass because I was drinking. I'm not saying it didn't have an effect, but the point is I was sobering up, and we were about to leave in our Uber or whatever we were taking, and him and I got into it, and then all of a sudden, I know myself, and I know that when I get really angry, because I grew up with anger issues, when I get really angry, it's hard for me to see reason, and so I do a lot of things that that aren't good. I'm not saying I know how to fight. I'm not saying I know how to do anything. I'm not trying to get to that point. I'm just saying, you get to that I know myself well enough to know I will get to a point to where if I don't have my faculties about me, it's going to be bad for both of us. Like, we're going to get into it, and if I don't know my limits and I'm not sane, then I'm going to you kind of get blacked out and stuff happens.
And that's something too that like I about knowing yourself is me personally. A lot of my beliefs and a lot of my own values contradict my other values. So I'm a very nonviolent person. I don't believe in fighting all the time. I honestly I can draw the line when I need to fight and when not to. But that being said, I love to fight. Like I love to fight. And when I was still in the platoon with all
You're a
the guys,
Marine.
yeah, like when I was in the platoon with all the guys, I would literally just walk up to them and we'd start fighting. Like I just jump on their back because I'm a short dude, so I just jump on their back and put them in a chokehold. They'd flip me over their shoulder and we'd just start fighting. And it wasn't like we like hate each other, violent altercation. It was just I just like to wrestle around with people and fight with them. But if it's something that I know for a fact that it's a true ordeal, like it's not like just like a training scenario, like a sparring thing, that's when I don't bug out in it, but it makes me very anxious because I don't like to fight, but I will not shy away from a fight. Like I will not shy away at all. Like if I like my little brother, for instance, TJ. So if I was ever home and there were some kids like messing with him or like grown ass men, obviously because I'm like about to be 21 and I can't fight teenagers, but if they were,
You shouldn't.
if there were grown, I'm gonna fight him. Is what I'm gonna do.
Yeah.
Oh God, but it's like if grown men are messing with him or something, or just being pricks, I won't stand for that,
Right.
and I will fight. And I feel that that's something about masculinity that people need to understand is it's okay to be nonviolent. Like it's fine to not, but you also need to understand that in some cases you have to be. Like you have to be to protect those people that are under you, that I wouldn't say look up
Yeah.
to you, but depend on you in some type of way, whether it's emotional or physical or monetarily or anything like that. If someone depends on you by just my idea of the laws of the universe, you should be in their corner at all times. You
Right.
should
Right.
fight for them. If they cannot fight for themselves, you fight for them.
Right. And actually, I have a phrase, if you will, defend those who cannot defend those who cannot defend themselves. And that was something I believed. One of the main reasons why I wanted to go in the military was because I actually had a heart for those. Um, Not a lot of people go in thinking of the citizens of the country they're going into. And for me, I had a heart for the kids because I would see pictures of people that served overseas, and they would have pictures of kids and just having fun. They're
Hmm.
trying to build that community rapport and be a part of the community there, protect them, because that's kind of like, I know there's a lot of different political reasons that they're there, but for the people that are actually there on boots on ground,
Hmm.
those people, they're just caring people, and they want, nobody wants to come into an area and start blowing
Yeah.
shit up and killing people. But for me, I joined because I wanted to go. I would have liked to go over there, and because that place before, I don't know if people look up the history of Baghdad, Iraq, all those places that are under siege and war, and ISIS and all that kind of stuff. Like, a lot of those cities were, they look really cool. I mean, it's just regular cities until all this stuff
Yeah.
happened.
And that's something that I think about a lot too, and it makes me sad because, I generally, just me personally, I like to see the good in everybody, good
Right.
in everybody, even the so-called bad guys. And no matter what we do, evil is gonna be a thing. Like evil's not gonna, I'm Christian, so I believe like God coming down, like Jesus Christ. But I believe evil's gonna be here until whoever's religion is right comes true. And you know, even then, trying to find that good in people and still doing good, even though it's going against that evil, like the whole yin and yang thing.
Right.
You need. My personal goal is to overpower, the evil. I feel like that's everybody's, goal in life at some point is to overpower something that's truly evil in their opinion, because that's all evil is the opinion of somebody and their morals. So like me personally, like I want to like help like homeless veterans and stuff that had to go fight and come back to a country that didn't give a damn about.
Right.
And I want to go to places like Haiti and like Africa where people are going through so much. Like I don't know if you know about it, but there's been a whole genocide happening in South Africa right now. It's been happening for the past 2 years. A
What?
entire genocide. Yes, you wouldn't hear about it because we've been so busy separating ourselves and dividing ourselves because of politics. We're so infused with what's happening within our government that doesn't care about us. By the way, let me just take that said. But we're so infused with that is that we're not paying attention to the atrocities actually being committed around the world. And when I say that, I'm not saying that we need to send military intervention. I'm saying we need to just send people, like just men and women who want to make a difference, who truly would want to go and fight that injustice, because it is an entire pretty much it. I'm not comparing it to the Holocaust because that you can't. You just can't. But there's an entire genocide happening for a very specific race of people in South Africa due to the pigmentation of their skin. So, like, I highly recommend doing some research on that too, because it is a thing, and I will not stand for it. But that's something that I don't like is like we keep seeing all these evil things happening, but we're so blinded by what's important to us within politics.
Right.
Because I've talked to you like about this before. Is I don't agree with Joe Biden. I don't agree with Trump. I don't agree with politicians in general because for someone who works for the government, I'm completely against it.
Yeah, I mean, I think what we've lost in the American ability to have civil discourse. My best friend Cody and I were actually talking, and I'm extremely excited. But he's agreed to come on the podcast, so I'm going to have
Right.
him on. But like it's really refreshing to have a conversation with somebody that you can actually have a discourse with and agree or disagree. And
Yeah.
I've disagreed with some of the things that we were talking about, but I agreed with a lot. But the other problem is too a lot is so you know these topics are not binary. Like some people think like, excuse me, you're either for Trump or you're against Trump. You're either
Yeah.
for Biden or you're against Biden. But the reality is it's not that easy.
Yeah. Like
Here's
there's a
why.
gray line. There's a gray
Well,
line in it.
there's some things that Trump has signed into, existence,
Mm-hmm.
executive orders or things that bills or whatever. Like he's funded African colleges for the next 10 years.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that he's done. Now this isn't me like
I
praising
know.
the guy, but I'm just saying there are things that he has done that he's also he signed into bill for, I think it's either mental disabilities or autism or some sort of disability that doesn't have enough funding. So he made a bill and passed it that, does help with funding those kind of things. And you have to look it up. I don't have it right in front of me, but when people, either president or otherwise, focus on things that help the country, move the country forward, I'm for that.
Right.
I'm not for things that hold us back or take away our rights. I'm a Second Amendment advocate, obviously. I'm not for government taking away our rights to bear arms. But here's where I believe something that some people disagree with. I believe us as citizens should have the same ability to hold firearms, military vehicles, military aircraft,
Yeah.
even Navy. I mean, I don't know if you ever heard of the Cajun Navy, but when the hurricane had happened and it was so bad and there was a lot of flooding, I went down to Houston and I was actually helping out, or at least attempting to try to be helpful, because I posted on a forum with the Dallas Makerspace when I was a part of it and said, hey, I'm going to take the next couple of days off. I got family down there, because I didn't know the whole situation. My family's house was literally being drowned and flooded, or it was being flooded. And so I didn't know the extent of the severity, and I wanted to just go down there and help. And so the guy literally cleared his whole week. We went down there with jet skis, and we were trying to find out where help was needed, and we wanted to help. We should have gone a little more east. Actually, we found out there was a city that actually needed more help, and we heard it on the radio. But when you go through that now, if I were to go through that now again, I would go through a different channel to find a legitimate, the freaking sheriff's department and the actual people in that area are dumbasses. Number one, they're just assholes because we're all trying to come to help. Like, that's all we're trying to do. So first off, don't be a dick, because that's why we're here. We're just trying to do our part. Okay, we're trying to help our fellow men and women. There's children and there's a lot of people that just need help. Okay,
Yeah.
so there's a lot of people that came about. So when we were coming down, there was a guy that, because we had jet skis, and he had asked, "Hey, are you guys going down south to help out with the hurricane effort?" And we're like, yeah, that's why we got the jet skis. We're gonna go try help. Dude, pay for our gas. And so I mean, we get down there, and the Cajun Navy, it's all you hear on the radio. And it's just a private group of a bunch of people that just had boats. They had big trucks, things like that. And so I'm back to why I brought them up. If they were able to have certain vehicles and firearms, things like that, people ask the question, well, why do they need it? And I'm like, it's for many reasons. It's also because you and I gave an oath, and I still believe that I will enact that oath until the day I die. I believe in it. I truly do. We are to protect against enemies, foreign and domestic. People don't understand what that means. Yeah. Foreign and domestic. Okay?
Like, It's really sad seeing that, because I agree with that. I believe that anything the military has, the regular person should be able to have. Obviously, there my thing on gun control, like I don't believe in any gun laws, but I do believe that there should be some type of, not vetting process, but some type of way to, if someone has been convicted of violent crimes, like
Right.
felons, but if it's like somebody who, oh, they got like a weed charge or something, like fuck that, like waive it, let them get a gun, because every American should have one. And which, yeah, it contradicts me saying that violent criminals shouldn't have one, but the bad guys are going to have guns either way. And in my opinion, if something were ever to happen with our country, the military the military wouldn't fight against its people. And as much as people would like to say that, oh, well, the government will make them the president, no, that's not the truth. Because in the Civil War, and this is a little bit Marine Corps history for you, in the Civil War, there was a Marine Corps. November 10th, 1775 is when the Marine Corps was founded. And our birthday's almost here. Oh, yeah. But in the Civil War, the Marine Corps split into two different, sides, just like the whole country. You had people who were fighting for their homes and for their beliefs. And so what would happen now would be the same exact thing, is that some would probably still stay loyal to the government because for some reason they're brainwashed. But I've not met any military personnel who's like, I love the government. Yay for government. Like, we work for it, but, we don't support the values that our government really does, because it's make me kind of label me an anarchist or whatever, but the government doesn't care about the people anymore. The government only cares about what's going to keep the ones in power and rich. So the thing I want is people to understand that you should own anything that can protect you from someone who's going to do evil against you.
Yeah, I
And
agree.
sorry, I'm getting off on a tangent.
No. I mean,
brain is working really fast.
it makes a lot of point. The funny point I was going to make was you're talking about politicians trying to stay in power and rich, and I was like, or trying to keep their hair done when nobody else can. Pelosi.
You ain't wrong.
I listen. If you are old enough to have just your body don't look right, okay? You've come to an age where you just need to go home and enjoy your life. That's what you need to do. No, but you don't need to go to parties. You don't need to wear these dresses where you look like you just came out the goddamn crypt, okay? Go home. All right. No, you don't need to. No, nobody needs to see that. Okay.
He
You might
does
think,
look
oh,
like a
I look
walking
pretty.
zombie.
I look gorgeous. Like, no, lady, you look like you're about to fall into a pile of dust. Okay. You need to go home.
But yeah, man, I'm actually, I hate to cut it short with us.
Sure.
I do have to be up for church in the morning, and
Okay.
I am a couple hours ahead of you, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, you are. That's right. Okay.
So I am sorry to cut this off, but I do need to go.
Okay.
But it has been great talking with you. I've enjoyed this thoroughly.
Yeah, man. I love to have you on again. We gotta catch up on some other items, but it was great to have you, and I love you, buddy. We definitely gotta find some time to go hunting sometime. That'd be fun.
Oh yeah, I'll show you a thing or two. I got you.
All right.
But
Sounds good. All right, everybody. Well, we'll see you later.
I love you, man. Y'all be safe.